It's Friday, March 27th at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is Higher Ed Special Edition. Today's topic is about people and processes behind constructing a responsive, sustainable course catalog. Printed course catalogs are out of date before they hit the printer. Publishing a catalog online allows you to quickly update the content and always have accurate information. You save on printing costs, support sustainability initiatives, reduce drain on staff resources, and minimize maintenance problems. Joining today's conversation is Nathan Gerber, Director of Web Development Services.
It's Friday, March 27th at 1 o'clock.
And I muted myself. Isn't that fun? Let me tell you again who's joining today's conversation. It's Nathan Gerber, Director of Web Development Services at Utah Valley University, and Don Troelsen, Director of Web Communications at California State University, Fresno. This episode of Higher Ed Special Edition is part of the Higher Ed Live network, offering viewers direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. Live webcasts allow viewers to share knowledge and participate in discussions around the most important issues in our industry. All episodes of Higher Ed Live are free and accessible in the video archives at higheredlive.com and in podcast format on iTunes. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a marketing and communications firm that works with education institutes on branding, strategy, web design, and more. Are you winning the mailbox war in higher education? We're talking about real mailbox, snail mailboxes. It's heartbreaking to think that your carefully considered piece will go directly from the mailbox into the recycle bin. This free webinar from M. Stoner will focus on strategies for optimizing the outside of your direct mail piece, and will showcase do's and don'ts from higher ed and beyond. We just tweeted out a link where you can learn more about that webinar and register. Higher Ed Special Edition is sponsored by Omni Update, who can help you develop an online course catalog that perfectly fits your specifications using their OU Campus content management system. Information from your catalog can be maintained completely in OU Campus, or data can be pulled from your student information system, such as PeopleSoft, Elucin Banner or Colleague, Genzabar, CurricuNet, or even legacy databases. Wow, those names are fun to say. Information not maintained in your student information system, such as academic rules and policies, class schedules, and course and faculty information, can be stored and managed in the CMS. You can learn more at omniupdate.com. I'm your host, Ashley Budd, social media strategist for Cornell University's Division of Alumni Affairs and Development. Today, my guests are Nathan Gerber and Don Troelsen. Nathan and Don, welcome to the show, and thank you for spending the hour with me today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Great to have you both. And for those of you watching along during the live broadcast, please don't hesitate to ask questions using the hashtag HigherEdLive on Twitter, and I'll do my best to ask questions as they come in. So I want to start by taking a look at a quick history of catalogs. Nathan, can you take us back to the days of print and tell us how we've evolved?
Yeah, great days of print. Just a little bit of history from us is, yeah, we started our catalog, was our website back in '95, and then we quickly moved to a PDF version and also to print. Obviously, we've been printing the catalog since we began because that was the way to do things. And it's just become kind of an aged way of communication when things are out of date immediately. You need to make sure that you can make changes rapidly on the web. And we just found that to be very honest, an archaic way of doing it. So we started looking at different ways to incorporate the web catalog. Our catalog office was spending an enormous amount of money to print the catalog, and as the years have gone on, we found that the catalog, most of the printed catalogs that we would have printed would end up in pallets, and by the end of the year, when we needed to produce a new catalog, those pallets would still be sitting there with a lot of catalogs on it. So I think not only did we think it was becoming an archaic way of pushing the catalog out and getting that information out to our our targeted audiences, but also the audiences themselves, because they just wouldn't come pick them up, they wouldn't purchase them. So it started to become a real challenge for us, and a costly challenge. So we were looking at better and better ways to leverage that funding.
So you used the term catalog office. Does that imply that you had quite a few human resources tasked with catalog only?
Well, it's actually called the Catalog and Curriculum Office. So they are tasked with putting the catalog together, but also to manage the process of curriculum approval on campus. Not the coursework, but actually the descriptions, the course names, the program descriptions, which courses go with those, that kind of thing. So they have a very heavy academic focus, and the output from that whole process is the catalog. So it seemed to match the process that we have on campus. So the catalog office puts the catalog together, and then our marketing department helps publish the printed catalog.
Got it. So Don, does this history mirror what has evolved at Fresno State?
Sure. Well, we also had a print catalog forever, and that was maintained. We sort of have a similar situation as far as human resources, and all the curriculum management is in a different office. And then University Communications would actually put the catalog, the print piece together, and take care of the printing of that. And about 3 years ago, they decided to go away from a printed catalog. We actually had a false start maybe 5 years before that, where when we went, maybe it was longer than that, when we went to our PeopleSoft system, there was a thought that we could just dump our catalog then, or course schedule, but things were really slow, and then they ended up continuing to do the print piece. And then so finally, 3 years ago, the decision was made that that would be our last catalog in print, and they were going to just spin up a website. We actually did have a website already that was a combination of PDFs and things, probably very similar to Nathan's. And so we just decided at that point that we had some feedback from our vendor. We had we had been to some conferences and saw some other universities with our same content management system provider, and that really sort of started the thought that let's just go for it now. And it was also in the beginning of our web content strategy for mobile, and so we put it all together and came out with the catalog as responsive, and it's been live 2 years now.
So did you feel any pushback on campus getting away from print altogether? And I'm curious how this fits into your larger web strategy.
I think people were already going to the PeopleSoft system, the catalog website, pre-responsive, and really just referring back to the printed catalog more occasionally. I think the real workhorse were the websites and the digital assets. And so there wasn't a lot of pushback at all as far as the students were concerned. There were a little more workflow issues as far as staff and change and different processes for how we put it all together and maintain it. But I don't think we had any real pushback to get rid of the print one.
Great. So before starting your catalog projects, I know both of you spent time researching and examining your audience and really defining the purpose behind this transition and the actions that you would need to take in order to have a successful rollout. So I want to spend a bit of time talking about that. Can you each take me through some of that thinking? And let's start with Nathan.
Sure. So the main thing we did when we first started looking at rebuilding the catalog was we tried to identify what we called the key objectives. We identified the primary audience, which was obviously students, both potential and current. And we actually included in that also their parents, because we find that more and more often parents are looking at the catalog with their students, trying to help their students and guide them in their choices. We also identified the primary purpose. and then we also identified our primary actions. This is kind of what we ask this question on every website build, and that is, what do we want the primary audience to do when they come to the website? And that kind of has to be a mesh of what we want them to do and what we think they will want to do when they get there. But we decided that really it was about getting them directly to the degree information. In the past, we were kind of architected in a way that would allow the catalog to be built around departments. And what we found with our research was that students really didn't care which department the degree belonged to. They just wanted to know what degrees we have, do we have the ones they're looking for, and what's it going to take to get that degree.
That's such a common stumbling point in our own web architecture, that we're organized around our own departments and organizational structures in our navigation, when really the intuition of our audience is different. So I appreciate that point. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. We also had a lot of other objectives we were trying to meet, similar to anybody else doing a catalog, and that is we needed to reduce or eliminate the need for printing. We needed to make sure it was easy to search for courses and degrees. We wanted to also improve the search results that we were seeing out in the big search engines, Google and Bing and those, based on key terms. We also wanted to make sure that it was really easy for them to download the full catalog, which is easy, but we also wanted them to be able to take individual degrees or sections of the catalog and download them. Our catalog has grown over the years. It's quite vast. It's a lot of pages, and no one wants to splunk through a 780-page PDF to find what they're looking for. So we tried to carve it up a little bit that way. We wanted to be able to also make the content repurposable to other places on the site, so that the catalog process could drive the changes to that content, but yet that departments all across campus could utilize it in their websites. And then we just needed to make sure that we could do the typical things, archive past ones, continue to archive, make sure it was SEO optimized, those kinds of things. So I think that answers your question.
It certainly does. Don, did you have similar experiences? Did you do any different kinds of audience research before getting the project off the ground?
Well, we had a similar approach and goals. We had started a few years before, just overall in our information architecture, making it student-oriented, student-focused, for that same reason. That, the students don't really understand or care about the institution and how it's organized. They just want to know what they need to know to get their classes, to register, to pick a program or a degree. And so we really focused on the students' interaction and exactly what information that they needed from the catalog. And our catalog was actually, a lot of duplication of information about departments. And so we really whittled ours down to just the required, legal kind of policy information, the things our chancellor's office requires, and then just individual program details and degrees and things like that. And then organize those very much just for what a student needed, and put all of the I always say, put all the blah blah at the back, that you have to go and hunt for the policy stuff, but the degree information is right in front.
So it sounds like requirements on both sides were to get students right to the degree information that they were seeking. Were there other requirements that you kind of tasked this project with? Dawn, you mentioned it being mobile optimized. Both of your sites are responsive. But were there other things as far as user experience or functionality that were core requirements of these catalogs going in? Nathan,
well,
if you
for Fresno State at least, it really was just looking at the handset, and making sure on the smaller phones. I mean, now it's been 2 years and the phones are really huge now, but looking at an iPhone 3 and 3.5 or whatever the next one was, just the smallest screen, and to see that the important things that the students are looking for were in that first area without having to scroll. So it was really much more focused for the device, I guess, our process.
Great.
We also really focused on the mobile first, and also responsive design. We've been doing that for a couple of years now. So when we took on our catalog, it was a natural thing to just say, hey, that was a requirement automatically. Templates had to be built accordingly. So the design was built off of that. And I touched on it before, but one of the big pieces that we wanted to do, since it was going to be so searchable and consumable in all forms, is we wanted to allow that content again to be utilized elsewhere, outside of the catalog, but driving traffic back to the catalog. So we actually have one of the requirements that we had was that it had to publish to a data source also, and in our case it was an XML data source. So I think those were really just the additional things.
So I know that processes are incredibly critical for any kind of new venture in higher ed, no matter what we're doing. I want to hear a little bit about the internal workflow, and we'll go back to that design process for folks who maybe don't have the years of experience working mobile first. But tell me a little bit about the internal workflow as it related to your people. Who was involved on the teams? What departments were they in? As much level of detail that you can offer about how many times a week or a month did you meet, and how much heavy lifting was it really on your people in this process?
You want to go, Nathan?
Go ahead, Dawn.
Okay. Well, let's see. We started with the curriculum team, and it's our dean of students who was really the champion of the project, and we had seen demos of other online catalogs, and you know that whole saying that you need the champion, to be the someone in administration for projects to really go, and that was our situation. So we had the curriculum team, and we had the web team, and also the catalog person. We just had one person on the catalog, and that was our group. So maybe about 10 people total, and we met really frequently just to go through, actually just sort of like editing what was in the catalog that was mandatory and what was just sort of duplicate department information on other websites. And we went through all that, and once we got a prototype together and we were getting data from our PeopleSoft system, we did have sort of a surprise that people weren't updating their PeopleSoft information as much as we had.
Unbelievable.
Little data integrity issues. So we did have to say, okay, wait, we're going to freeze right here, and then make sure everyone goes in and reviews their data in PeopleSoft. And that was a real eye-opener. So I think the people sort of management thing was a real interesting twist there, because everyone thought everything in PeopleSoft was really perfect.
And Don, you were a few years out from your PeopleSoft migration when you tackled this, right?
Yeah, we had PeopleSoft in place for a long time.
Right.
But we had this, this disconnect, because our online catalog was very well maintained from, manually from our catalog person, and that's where people went. And there was sort of a disconnect that students were actually looking at PeopleSoft when they're going to register for classes and looking at course descriptions and the units and all that. So there was this data discrepancy between our online catalog and our PeopleSoft system. So that was a real eye-opener, and we did have to sort of hold fast and work on data integrity for 3 months before we ended up feeling confident to go live with it.
Having gone through a PeopleSoft migration from a legacy system myself, I know what that feels like, and I understand needing to hold off on some of these other major projects. Are
you there?
Did we lose Dawn?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, I got you, Dawn.
Okay.
I don't have Ashley, though.
I don't have Ashley either. It still says we're live, so.
Well, hopefully she can hear us.
I think I might have froze on you.
Oh, there we go.
I saw that coming. For folks who might be transitioning databases or moving into a new enterprise system, I think it's a nice kind of tip to share that you might not want to be tackling some of these other data-heavy projects during the same time. Would you agree, Dawn?
Well, I would just say that we didn't have a phase defined as, the data integrity part, and that was, naive on our part probably. So I would definitely say plan for that, and of course in all these big projects, change is hard, and people don't have the time to go and review your things that, the day you want them to review it. So making sure people actually go in and there's a lot of people that contribute to all those course descriptions and all that degree information. So just having enough time to make sure that all of that is tested and that people, and even down to advisors and student affairs, are all on board and comfortable. All the people issues that are really kind of soft issues, but are really important.
Nathan, at Utah Valley, did you have a similar or different internal workflow as it related to your people?
Oh, I think it was very similar. We were approached by our marketing department and the catalog folks to say, hey, we need to probably do something better than we currently have. As we looked at what we had, we decided we'd pull a team together. So we pulled the catalog or curriculum folks together. We pulled marketing together, our web development services, which is the IT development side of the web here. Marketing is the design and the communication side of the web. We pulled all those people together. We also included some of the people from we're a Lucian banner school, so we pulled some people from our banner system that dealt with the data, and that was our team, and we would meet probably every 2 weeks. It took us about 6 months to run the process. One thing we found as I started to identify, the first thing we wanted to do was identify where's the data coming from. And we seem to have a bad habit in higher education of layering systems on top of systems to solve problems, right? And so the first thing we did was look at all of that, and we said, well, we don't want to add another layer or another system on top of this. Is any of the systems we currently use, can we leverage them to help us with this catalog project instead of going out and getting a whole other system to do it? So obviously we could leverage the data from Banner. We have a curriculum management tool that we have internally here. We could leverage the data from that. We also leveraged our existing content management system on the Updates OU campus to do our actual system. So it was an interesting process. As we put it all together, we could leverage what we currently had, funding that we currently had that was going towards printing of the catalog to fund the project. We didn't actually have to go out and find project funding for this. So I think that was kind of the internal mentality and team process that we went through. Meeting, like I said, about every 2 weeks, putting it together, designing it, implementing it, and testing it and launching it.
Great. I want to go back to the mobile-first design quickly. For our audience members who might not be web designers, who are familiar with course catalogs as they are in print, or possibly the PDF forms that are available on their own websites now. What are some of those? And so I'll set the stage here for mobile-first design as typically kind of stripping down to the bare bones of what information is needed, so that not all of the information is piled onto a tiny screen at once. What did you find were some of the most important pieces to highlight as you were kind of stripping your information down to a mobile-first design? Were there any standouts?
I'll take this one first, if that's all right, Don.
Sure.
So on the mobile first thing, we just started looking at it from the audience perspective. When our students had their mobile device in hand and they were looking at the catalog, what is it that they would want to see first? And based on our research, it was about degrees. and second, it was about courses. So we tried to layer everything accordingly and only show that navigation that was needed. We found with our mobile deployments and mobile designs that everybody wants to have all the information available, but not all at the same time. It's just too much information. So, you know, in the early days when we did this, it was a matter of, well, what could we not show on mobile that we could then show on desktop? And that, for us, those days have kind of passed. It's not a matter of what is eliminated. It's more of how do you organize the content to be able to be reached quickly through whatever mechanisms on the mobile device, and where do you place the menuing system to hand, you know, so it's easy to use and you can use it with one hand versus two hands and those kinds of things.
Great. And Don, I'm going to take your silence as agreement.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, these, you know, it seems like we've been doing responsive for a while now, so but all those same things. I would only just add, we wanted to make sure search was, you know, search was easy. And, you know, searching, we have 3 different ways to search the catalog, so we wanted to make sure search was you know, one of the first things that they could see too, because search is, you know, students are really search driven. You know, they navigate by search and dominantly. So. Absolutely,
absolutely. So I know you both have presented to higher education audiences within the past year, and I'm curious to know what kind of questions you received, especially about some of the things that we haven't mentioned yet, like back-end tools and data points that are available to you. And if there are any of the viewers that are tuning in live, if you have questions for Don and Nathan, I'm happy to ask them. But curious to hear what our colleagues have been asking you this past year. Nathan, I'm going to pitch this to you first.
Who?
You.
Me. All right. Let's see. What are the big questions that we would get? Well, some of the, you know, we get them all the way from the very technical. How did you implement that piece? How did you get it to publish to those sources? Those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And on that side, it was really a lot of questions about how or what drove the decision to have it published to HTML, to individual PDFs for programs, individual PDFs for courses, full PDF for the full catalog, and then an XML version just as a data source to reuse in other places. So we walk them through, you know, our mindset and where we had to make that decision, and it may or may not be appropriate for other institutions. Just depends on what your needs are. Questions all the way from there to, I seem to get a lot of questions about, well, how did you get buy-in from your administration to eliminate printing and use that funding to fund this project? And all we just had to do was show the data. We just had to show the pallets of catalogs sitting in the warehouse that never got purchased, that no matter how far we reduced it, it seemed like the audience was always ahead of us, reducing their consuming of the paper product than we were of printing the paper product. So it was a pretty easy sell to them just once they saw, oh, you mean we're wasting all that money? Yeah, pretty much. So I think those were the main questions we got. We did get some other questions about, well, how did you work with your marketing team? How did that coordination happen? And how did you work with your catalog team? And how did that coordination happen? But because we put that team together at the very beginning and we all had the same goals, we defined the primary objectives and goals at the beginning. We all had the same vision from the very beginning, so it was actually really seamless and easy to run that.
I'm going to ask you to drill down on that HTML versus PDF question for our audience that might not understand the value of metadata that you would be offering up to search engines, publishing in HTML versus you know, what we've seen across a lot of university websites right now, which are those static PDF catalogs.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually did screenshots and did a bunch of research beforehand, before we even started the project, of if you went out to Google or to Bing and you did searches on, say, our biology bachelor's degree or our business bachelor's degree or our communications AS degree, and we showed how the actual official catalog description of that program didn't even come up in the search. My favorite one was we did one, if I remember correctly, and it was for our business bachelor's degree. And the business bachelor's degree didn't show up in the search at all, but I got our biology bachelor's degree, our geology bachelor's degree, and our aviation. I don't know how those got in there, but it's the inherent problem of searchable PDFs that just aren't really good for SEO. And the algorithms now used by search engines just don't really look at a PDF as the real, true, great source of information. So that was easy to show that we needed to have the individual HTMLs that would actually be of the different pages and programs that we have, the degrees, the courses. And then we also wanted to make sure that they could take the whole catalog with them, which then led us to doing the full PDF. But we also wanted them to be able to take just the degrees that they were interested in as short, very concise PDFs, and that was the individual ones. The XML was used because the English department, for instance, wanted to be able to list their degrees and programs on the English website, but yet if they did that and they duplicated it, now we're fighting against our own search engine, right? We're competing against ourselves for search results, and it can get out of date the minute you blink. As soon as they copy that data, it's out of date. And the catalog office was getting phone calls about, well, I found this degree here, but yours is different. No, it's the same thing, but it's out of date over here. So we just started using this data source, this XML, to actually replace all of that so that it could be updated in one place on a timely manner, and no one had to really worry about it.
Great. Yeah, and Don mentioned the searchability within the catalog being of great importance. And I can imagine, and I know that is the case, but you're right when you think about especially prospective students, families, or just our own students that aren't familiar with where the catalog lives, are just Google addicts. You know, even if you have the search tool within your catalog, oftentimes they're going right into the Google search to try to find what they need. So I think that we're still lagging a bit in the SEO world as institutions, not quite understanding the value that those referral searches bring to us. So thanks for clarifying that. Don, I want to pitch a similar question to you about throughout your presentations, the kinds of questions that you're receiving, and if there are other things to know about what the back end of your catalog might look like with data points you're able to collect or make changes to. Tell us a little bit about those things.
Okay, well, for questions, you know, from the presentations, definitely the same sort of gamut ran in my presentations. For sure, people were interested in the PeopleSoft part of it because, you know, more, I don't know if that's becoming a more dominant student administration system, but a lot of people wanted to know about PeopleSoft and how we connected to that or grabbed the data. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were interested in that whole data integrity thing, and I think, you know, I've been very honest about, you know, oops, we didn't realize that our data wasn't good. I mean, it wasn't not good, but it wasn't as clean as we would like it to be, and I think people really responded to that, and that made a lot of people think, oh wow, we need to really make sure that our you know, big data sources are all up to date and everything. So that was a lot of the discussion, and then I'd say the mobile first sort of discussions on, you know, we definitely stripped down the online catalog and removed a lot of information pretty aggressively, and people were sort of timid about that and asking questions about how we dealt with different departments and roles, and that goes back to having, you know, our champion being in the administration, so we had a lot of you know, permission to do these things. Let's see, what else did people ask a lot? One thing, we actually combined a lot of different information that wasn't typically in the catalog before, So we included roadmaps that were actually in a different website under academics. We included career information that was also on a totally different website. And we combined information that, we didn't just transfer the catalog to a responsive website. We actually added more content and made the whole understanding a degree or program more rounded and made all of that information in one spot. So people had questions about that as well. It's if you're going to really reconstruct something, and you're analyzing student behavior, then you might be taking information from sites that are traditionally not content in the catalog, just to round out that user experience. So there's a lot of discussion about that as well.
Great. So I want to start breaking down if this was all worth it. Nathan gave us some clear cost-saving projections, especially knowing that cutting the printing costs was he was able to fund this project. Don, have you seen significant cost savings since rolling this out? I'm also curious if the PeopleSoft conversation was driven by concerns around having to customize PeopleSoft in order to make this project integrate with that source.
Yeah. No, we didn't have to customize our PeopleSoft at all. We did have to sort of, take control of a few fields so that we could, have the program titles be uniform and sort of say that's the catalog, degree title kind of thing. But we didn't have to do any upgrades or modifications in PeopleSoft.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Let's see. What was the other question?
Cost savings.
Oh, cost savings.
Money.
We actually did have a slightly different situation than Nathan with our catalogs. That the students actually would buy the catalogs, and every year we would have some left over, but not. I guess we were on top of the volume that we were printing, and the print runs were decreasing. And so we actually pretty much broke even on the costs of printing the catalog. But I'd say just freeing up, like our catalog person now is, doing a lot of writing. She's doing more, her role is expanded because she's not, trying to pump out this big print document all the time. And so a lot of that human, power is being utilized elsewhere and for other things. Costs, so really cost savings, there weren't a lot of hard costs for us. Since we would recoup that from selling the catalog. Beautiful. But definitely time and money. Time for sure. With we publish the catalog every morning, and it just takes not very long, and it's always up to date. And once the big lift was done and the project was done, the ongoing maintenance is pretty small. So I'd say it's a big win on people time.
Excellent. And let's talk about the other results stemming from this project. I want to talk a little bit about your web traffic and some of those search results that we spent so much time talking about today. Nathan, can we start with you? I know you just did an analysis on your catalog.
Yeah, so like I had said before, we took all those screenshots and did the research before we launched the catalog with the new system, and then we did those same exact searches, and each one of those actually showed the catalog descriptions and the degree plans and the details that we put in the catalog for each of those programs and degrees to be at the top of those searches. So if you searched for a business BS degree, then you're going to get the business degree information. And the nice thing is it doesn't give you the catalog, it gives you the actual degree, so you drill right to it. The communication one was the same, the biology one was the same. So we saw some tremendous increase in search rankings and where the pages would fall. And it's not so much that we really care where we fall in the search, it's we want to make it as available to the audience as possible, and obviously we are all a search generation now. We search everything. That's where we go. So that's been huge for us. As far as the search is concerned, it has gone through the roof. It's been great.
And Don, were you tracking similar results on search inside and outside the catalog?
Yeah, and we had a similar results. Definitely, we're ranking really high, and it's easy to find our degrees and drill directly down to the degree and program level. So that's been really good.
And tell me a little bit about your web traffic. Are you seeing, have you looked at how much of this traffic is driven by internal audiences versus possibly the web traffic coming from, what might look like prospective students, people off-site who are, searching by degree and being curious what the offerings look like at your campuses?
Well, for sure, we spike 2 times a year, right around registration time. So we know sort of there's a little rumbling all year round, and then it really goes crazy twice a year for about 3 weeks.
And are you able to compare that amount of traffic? The online traffic from before?
Well, unfortunately, we didn't have analytics at all on our earlier catalog, and we didn't have it in that PeopleSoft registration part when they're looking for classes. Right. So we actually don't have pre and post analytics to look at. So.
Nathan, what about you? What is your web traffic telling you?
Yeah, so we actually have been tracking our web traffic for a while on our catalog. And so we just did a comparison just recently from like the fall semester, for instance. We just took a snapshot of it. And from the year before to the year after we launched our new catalog, our increase of catalog traffic, I'm actually looking at the graphic here, is the page views were up 278%. Mm-hmm. Our unique page views were up 382%. If my investments could come close to that, I'd be awesomely happy. So this was a huge improvement for us. I mean, to see the graphs, to see the spikes, to see what's going on. For instance, like Don said, we all watch the spikes happen around that time where registration is open and they need to look through the catalog and register for courses and things. We were typically getting somewhere around about 2,500 page views in a day was a good day during the spike of that registration period in the catalog. And I'm looking at the graph now, and last November was one of the spikes that we've had. And compared to 2,500 page views a day, we were looking at just about 8,000 page views per day. So it was a tremendous increase. Mm-hmm. Our bounce rate is down 42%. And for anyone that knows what bounce rate is, that's when people come to your site, see it, and leave. Having it decrease in as quickly as it did, 42%, was tremendously important for us. And one person actually, when I was talking about our analytics from our campus, said, but I also see your average time on page is down by 31%. That's not a good thing, right? And well, it depends on how you analyze that data. The way we look at it is, well, they were spending a lot longer on a great big long PDF trying to find what they were looking for, or now we've provided them that information so they can get there, they can get the information, and they're done. They're done reading that page. They move on to another page. And they said, well, how do you know they're moving on to another page? Well, because our exit rates are down 32%. So they're actually spending more time on the catalog. All in all, there's no way that I could explain the increase in traffic and the productiveness of our catalog for our end users. It's just been phenomenal.
Well, it's certainly 2 great examples of success stories here. And as we're wrapping up the hour, I just want to allow us some time to get in a last word for our viewers who might be coming back to the story in the archives when they're getting ready to tackle a project like this. So I want to ask you both for your wise words, your pro tips, that you might share with colleagues who are about to start down the road of responsive, sustainable catalog project? Who wants to share the wisdom first?
Well, I'll go.
Go ahead, Don. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I would say if you haven't jumped into the whole mobile realm just yet, then think big, because it's a totally different way to approach information and analyze information and user behavior. So if you really have to hold on to things like this has always been in the catalog kind of thinking, it's going to sort of hobble your end product, I'd say. So I'd say, try to go for the big vision and not just kind of slowly over time whittle it down to something that you're really happy with.
Great. Good advice.
I know that everybody's thinking about this, but it comes right back to the simple principle of know your audience and know what they need. Mobile is important. Make sure that you've got the right team on campus put together to put something like this out. You've got the right buy-in in the right places. Reuse the data or the systems that you currently have if at all possible. Don't layer more on top. Keep it simple kind of concepts. And then just watch the magic happen and keep track of your analytics and see how much improvement, so you can turn around and tell people how well it worked or where you need to make improvements.
Well, a huge virtual round of applause, both from myself and our live audience today. I want to thank you again, Dawn and Nathan, so much for your time this afternoon on a Friday. And as we sign off, I want to remind everyone to also provide a huge warm thank you to our program supporters, mStoner and Omni Update. Without them, these free broadcasts would not be possible. I'm your host, Ashley Budd, and we hope to see you again soon on Higher Ed Live. Thank you.
Thank you.